Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Quarantine Chronicles. We hope all of you are well and safe and have been staying at home. For your good and responsible behavior, today we have a very special guest from France, although she works in the Netherlands and she is currently in Germany for the moment for the quarantine. Please join me on welcoming Mathilde V from Coolrec Renewi.
And hello, Mathilde. How's everything? How's your quarantine treating you?
So far, so good. Safe and sound.
I'm glad. Sound, your family as well, and relatives.
Yeah. It's very important, and I believe it's very important to stay safe at home and follow the restrictions that are in place in order all of us to be safe, and also us, but the other, of course.
So there you have it, Mathilde. Recommendation: if you're not staying at home, please do stay at home and follow the rules, the strict rules, because it's not a joke.
First of all, thank you, Mathilde, for being with us today. We are very excited to have you here.
And to sharing your knowledge about enhancing the recycling and its maximum recovery. Before we jump in and learn all about the very interesting material Mathilde has with us today, we want to give you a brief context of what is our relationship with Mathilde and Coolrec and Renewi. As many of you know, due to our past webinars and episodes, at CA we have a diverse network of stakeholders due to our participation in R&D partners. And Coolrec is a large industry involved in the project Plas to be Cleaned. Plas to be Cleaned is a project financed by the European Commission and has the mission to develop a human and environmental safe recycling process for waste, electrical, and electronic equipment, plastics in a technically, environmentally, and economically feasible manner. From CA.
That was correct. That was good.
Okay. And the project has 10 partners involved. Coolrec is one of them, and Sustainable Innovation ourselves are another partner. We're not going to get too much in depth about Plas to be Cleaned itself. We're going to base our conversation on 6 points. First, we're going to get to know a little bit more about Mathilde and her role at Coolrec, what Coolrec does, and the second, Renewi, which is the mother company of Coolrec. Then we're going to go through the Coolrec efforts, all the processes, chemical and mechanical. Then a little bit about COVID-19 effects, positive, negative, the EU involvement in this recycled plastics, and at the last, some messages from Mathilde herself, recommendations and messages to the audience. So why not begin by yourself, Mathilde? If you can tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at Coolrec.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me today. That's really a pleasure to join this initiative, and I believe it's a very interesting concept to launch during this hard period and dramatic period that we are facing. So without further ado, let's dive in. I believe that before describing my job, I would like to explain why I do what I do. I believe that's very, very important. It's the motivation behind a job. The first motivation behind what I do is because I believe that plastic is a very controversial material and plastic has a wrong image. A lot of plastic is related to waste, but plastic is also a very valuable material that can be used in a second life. And all of this is regarding the mindset of recycling. We can really recycle a plastic and make it better. And that's the first motivation behind my job.
Okay.
The second one is that we have to use what is already there. A plastic is a very easy material because it's flexible. You can melt it and reuse it afterwards. So I believe there is no point of creating something new all the time. You can just use what is on our planet. And that's the second point. By improving the recycling processes, we can also improve the fact that we are using what is already on the planet. Then I will describe my job. There is 3 main pillars of my job. The first thing is quality control, very important in recycling. You always have to check quality control, traceability, purity. Then I will go also for research and development. That's very important. We know a few things about recycling, but there is so much more to learn. So I work on the project like the Plast to be Clean, so funded by Horizon 2020 by the European Commission. And I'm also responsible for the development of the new compounds, meaning that a plastic, when it's getting recycled, you have to sort it in different categories, and then you can melt it again and create a new plastic. And that's called a compound. So Coolrec, we're focused on one part of plastic. It's the plastic coming from electronics. So it's called the WEEE, so the waste from electronic and electrical equipment. So we're on the whole process. Me, I'm working on the plastic plant, but beforehand, you also have some, we receive the appliances. So for example, you receive a fridge, a complete fridge, and then we are going to extract the metals, ferrous, non-ferrous, and of course the plastic, but also the foams that are inside. So we have the whole process from the appliances to the new plastic. Within Coolrec, and that's kind of what you see in the drawings right now on the slide. It's a very good point for Coolrec because we control the whole chain. It's very easy to know what is our input and what is our output. We're located in France, in Belgium, and in the Netherlands. Renewi is a way bigger company. For Coolrec, we are part of what we call Renewi Specialties. So we are in the same division as the glass recycling, for example, but also Renewi is dealing with municipal waste. So everything that is related to your household waste, what you produce when you're at home. So yeah, Renewi is a big company. It's in 9 countries, so quite big. So what we do is, so Coolrec is responsible for all the electronics. Renewi is responsible more towards municipal waste. What I can tell about the main process, the key point is collection, of course. As much plastic can enter or as much appliances can enter this loop, the more you can recycle. That's key for sure. And then goes the separation process where you remove the metals, non-ferrous, ferrous, then goes for the part on the plastic, and then it goes to the Netherlands where we can separate, because plastic is a very huge box. In plastic, you have a lot of different polymers, and those polymers are not compatible with each other. It means that if we would melt them together, the mechanical performances would be very low. So you have to separate them in very precise polymer categories, and then you can process it, make a new plastic, and this new plastic will be used in new application, like in toys, in new electronics, in new appliances, yeah, in a lot of different applications, and it started second life afterwards. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So I think that goes very in line with the introduction of Renewi now. Renewi, well, you said, well, it's in 9 countries. It revenues over 1.7 billion. And you said it's mainly on municipal waste, although it takes in what Coolrec absorbs, no? Which is the electronics and glass.
So we are indeed part of Renewi. So Renewi is treating glass, municipal waste, electronic waste, all of different kind of waste, and each division is divided in different categories. So electronics stand for Coolrec, glass is going to stand for Malta Recycling, that's the name of the division, and so on. But the whole group and our mother company is indeed Renewi. Yeah.
Okay.
We're standing under the same name. Yeah.
And we can see now some of the Coolrec efforts. If you could explain to us, to mortal people like myself that are not very technical or very have a lot of background in recycling, the processes of the difference of chemical versus mechanical. I know that mechanical also entails second subdivisions. So if you can tell us a little bit about the processes themselves.
Yeah, so I can give you a brief insight of what is recycling. We talk about recycling, but there is clearly different kind of recycling. we often hear a fracture between chemical and physical recycling that, in my opinion, should not be there. The technology should work together and not facing each other. Physical recycling is going to be a recycling where the polymer chain, so the plastic, is staying unchanged. Um, we will only make a physical change. So if you talk about the dissolution, you're going to have a plastic that is a solid. You're going to make it liquid. That's a physical change. It's a dissolution. After, you're going to remove any kind of impurities, and then you're going to make the plastic solid again, and it's a new plastic. The chain are staying the same. It goes exactly the same way for the mechanical recycling. You have the polymer chain, you sort the plastic in categories, like I said before, and then you're going to melt the plastic, so make it liquid in an extruder, and then you're going to make it cold, and it's going to make a new plastic. So that's the two ways where the polymer is intact. When you go to chemical, the process is that you change the structure of the polymer. So you have a polymer is a section of a lot of different units, and chemical recycling is going to break down this polymer in small units. It's called the depolymerization. And then when you put these units back together, you can create a longer chain than it was at the beginning. So you have a modification in the chain and you put all these units together again. It's called the polymerization. So that's the three kind of recycling that are existing right now. The thing is that there is, if you use mechanical, you can use a clean plastic. If you sort it properly, you can have very high mechanical performances. It's very good. This solution is amazing for plastic that has substances of concern. It means that it's a plastic that is restricted because it's considered as dangerous. And with a dissolution process, you can remove it. It's the example, for example, of the Plast2be project funded by the European Commission. Chemical is really for a plastic that you cannot recycle in a physical manner. Okay. So it would be, a plastic that you cannot use physical, then you will go for chemical. It's a very high CO2 footprint, so way better to go for the physical recycling that has a low CO2 footprint.
Mechanical, yeah, definitely. The end products that are being delivered by Coolrec right now, what can you do with this end product? Once the material is recycled, as we can see this PS granulate, what can it be reused for?
So this granulate is coming from the fridge. So it's a 100% recycled plastic from an old fridge. So it's a polystyrene, and it's also called high impact polystyrene because there is rubber inside. This material can be used, as I said before, in toys. For toys, you need special regulation, which we have at Coolrec. We have matched those levels. Then you can use it also in the flower pots industry. We had some contracts in vacuum cleaners, more for the polypropylene. You can go back to electronics. So there is really a wide range of application. It's just there is a lot of fear regarding recycled material that they would be of low quality. Of course, I developed those compounds. I believe they were very high quality, and the mechanical performances are very good. So I think we should just break down this fear regarding recycled plastic and just start to use them and realize by ourselves that they're good.
Yeah,
they can be good.
No doubt. So the end message is always recycle. If you can stay away from the chemical recycling, please do so because of the carbon footprint. Always reinforce the physical recovery. But the message is clear. There is a lot of opportunities for recycled parts. Coolrec is focused solely on the electronic equipment, but like Mathilde well says, there can be long opportunities for multiple opportunities for all different types of plastics. Now the big subject, COVID-19, we see that the environmental footprint has lowered. and that consumption has also lowered. How has this affected the recycling industry? How is Coolrec reacting to it? I know that you are usually in a plant in the Netherlands. Now you're working from home. So how are you tackling these um, obstacles, and do you think is there any positive effects to it?
So of course it's a different situation and everyone has to adapt. We do the same at Coolrec. We adapt. It's very safety is one of our core values. Very important for us to stay at home. Our production is running at 50% because we cannot run all of it, mainly because the container park in France and in Belgium were closed, meaning that the collection system is down. We don't receive as much input as we would like to receive
No.
because the people cannot bring their old appliances to the container park. I think this is showing how crucial the collection scheme is in the recycling industry.
No.
Um, because if the people don't bring back their appliances because they don't think about it or because they prefer to let it in the basement, um, that's that's showing that this is hard to recycle. If there would be so much more going into the plastic loop and the collection system, we would recycle so much more. And I think that that's a key effect that we see right now. It's the dependency of the collection system and the consumer.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, I want to know your opinion on this because many different countries, well, at least in Spain, and I know Italy and France have a different method. But do you believe that there should be a universal collection method, at least in Europe? Or I'm from Mexico originally, and there's uh, little to no awareness of the collection structure. Um, Society does not know where to put the spare parts, where to put the waste, the trash. Do you believe that there should be a universal method, or do you think the one that exists right now works well and it's productive?
I think it would be for sure easier to have, for example, a European way of collecting the waste. Because, for example, if you go to one region to another, you already have the black bin or the yellow bin or the green bin. It's already very confusing. If you would have one system, of course, it would be easier, at least for the recycler point of view. Um, but I know the regulation regarding waste, it's country related. For us, it's very tricky. For example, France has a different regulation as Netherlands, so it's already very difficult to transport the waste from one country to the other. So it's sure that the collection, it would be a very, very beautiful improvement to have a common collection system, but I believe it's far, far in the future.
Yes, it's quite tough. Although we maybe this crisis can help us create awareness of how important this is,
Indeed.
like you said. And I want to go and transition into three questions that we ask our partners that come in and visit us in this quarantine chronicle episodes. I'm going to tell you three questions as in a row, and you can decide whether to answer them separately or all of them together. So the first one is, how can COVID-19 help fight this climate change? And I think you answered it in your previous answer. The second one, do you think the benefits we've seen until now can be maintained in a foreseeable future? And three, what actions do you recommend for an enduring environmental health?
Um, so I believe like now we are living under a lot of restriction. So this drastic change is also related to this restriction. I believe it is not healthy to live like this for
Mental
too
health.
much years in a row. Of course, so I believe this is a change like this with so much restriction is not the solution for climate change. But on the other way around, we see that maybe we take new habits, maybe we take less the car because we see that we can actually go to the local grocery store instead of going to the big one far away with our car. Maybe we see that we can buy less fruits packed in a lot of packaging so we can reduce our single-use plastic. You see, we take new habits because of this quarantine time, and maybe some of them are good to keep, some other are not good to keep, of course. Staying at home all the time and not seeing anyone is not very healthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe some of this habit, and everyone should do the work on themselves to recognize, okay, this was a good point, and now I will take more the bicycle. I will just go more to this grocery store because there is less packaging. I think some small efforts like this, if everyone is doing it, it's a huge change.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree that it's a inevitable eye-opening situation. The we work in we share the industry of research and development, and that goes into the next point that we're going to talk about. The European Commission has been pushing strongly to involve all types of industries for this awareness. You are completely in line with the EU involvement in recovery. If you could explain us a little bit about how the pyramid works.
Yeah. So first of all, the European Commission has set a few regulations regarding the chemicals. It's called REACH. It's the regulation of chemicals, and POP, the regulation of pollutants. Um, with this, we have to comply with those regulations. I think it's a huge push from the European Commission in order to make the recycled plastic safe. If everyone knows it's safe, everyone would be more keen onto using them. That's the first thing. Then they made this amazing reverse triangle that is setting the priorities from a preferred waste management to a low prefer waste management. Of course, prevention, that's kind of what we are doing today, learning about the different kind of recycling, um, being aware of them. It's very important. If you know about it, then you will change your habits and do it in the future. Preparation for use can be a lot of sorting. If you sort properly the plastic, collect it properly, that's preparation for reuse. And then you have recycling. That's what we talked before. Other recovery can be energy recovery, and disposal is landfill. Not preferred at all. That's a disaster for our planet, so not preferred. But this implied that also in recycling you have some priorities. As I said before, in my opinion, I would for sure go for mechanical recycling, solvent-based purification, that is more the solution, and then I will go for chemical recycling because that has a high footprint regarding CO2. So that's a bit how I see it, and I think that the EU is really trying to push the recycling. Maybe implemented some taxes on the virgin plastic. That could be also a solution towards improving the recycling rates. And also the funding that they provide for the research regarding Horizon 2020 is very, very beautiful, and we can do a lot of things with research. So I'm very grateful for all the measures that they put in place indeed.
Oh, and we are too. I strongly believe that research and development is key into uh, advancing into a more greener and sustainable future.
Yeah,
I wanted
indeed.
to ask what countries are making the best example out of this inverted pyramid. What countries should we target as Europeans and as a world to say we need to follow their lead, we need to do what they're doing and adopt their tendencies and governmental also governmental uh, kind of taxation, no?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I believe it should be more not one best or one worst. It should be more a European fact that Europe should be good in waste management. I believe that should be more the way. Yeah, I don't believe there is one better or one worse. What we have to improve is the awareness of the consumer, but also the OEM when they produce new products. Um, it has to be thought that you have to think about recycling. the end of life of a product, that's very important. So
Yeah,
I believe we should be good as Europe.
yeah, yeah,
That's the key point.
completely. And trying to pick your brain here, the importance of awareness. We have a lot of our audience that's coming from the U.S. and Latin America. Um, they're not under the European belt or the European EU structure. What can you recommend them, or what words do you have for them in these terms of, okay, you don't have this entity that's the European Commission that's on top
Mm.
of everything, auditing uh, and 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 being responsible for their actions. Uh, what
Yeah.
what what forms or recommendations or words do you would you say to them to provide them responsible recycling processes?
So the first thing I would say is that collection is the key. Collection is the base of the plastic loop. If there is no collection, there is no recycling. Um, and all products, something old, discarded, has to enter this loop of recycling. If not, it will never be recycled. So that's the first point. My second point would be that everyone that is listening there, I believe that you can be the future of tomorrow, or you're already working in your career. Um, for me, when you produce something new, when you develop something new, when you do research, you have to think about the end of life. What you produce, you have to include a recycling thought inside in order that at the end, the plan is already there and not the appliance is discarded and now no one knows what to do with it, because that was the problem of the last year, and I think we have to avoid this. The third point would be that we have to be aware that the plastic that we are treating in a recycling plant, they're coming from 10 years ago, because when an appliance is produced, then it's staying there in your house, in your kitchen for 10 years. And what you receive afterwards is something that is 10 years old. The job of the recycler is really to put this plastic up to date. We have to clean it, we have to repair it, and then we'll release it to the market again. And I think no one is thinking about this, but that's a very interesting thought.
Yeah.
The fourth one is that a recycled product can be safe and of high quality. I hope that after this presentation, you will be more keen into believing in it. Yeah, that's one of my key messages. And the last one is just that we have to change our image about recycling. We have to see it more. I always say this, I think it's more like a reparation system of the material, a cleaning process, than a waste management plant. Um, I don't believe it's a waste facility, because with proper recycling, your material is never reaching the status of waste, and that's the key point, and that's how I would like to end this message. Yeah.
Um, well, thank you. That's quite inspiring. I was writing a few notes down. Well, while we strive for a circular economy, we are very thankful for companies like Coolrec that do this amazing advancement and progress to avoid or surpass the linear economy, which is not sustainable at all. Stealing your words, I think that as an individual working in your careers itself, we can make a huge impact, and we can't stress enough that uh, doing and setting the example is the perfect way of the first change, no? All the audience that's listening, please write your comments in the chat about your opinions and everything that you've learned from Mathilde's insight. We are more than happy to discuss it in further webinars. And again, Mathilde, thank you for joining today, and thank you
Thank you for inviting me.
for enhancing us with your knowledge of plastic recovery and all type of recycling. Um, so thank you, everybody, and until next time for the next Quarantine Chronicles, and have a safe quarantine time. Ciao,
Bye
ciao.
bye.
Okay, thank you for your attention. Mathilde left, but I'm still here. Now I want to open conversation and listen to your points of view. I saw several of you asked questions within the chat. First, it was Valeria and Luis. Mathilde, have you had the opportunity to visit countries of Latin America and see the recycling processes from there? I'm
here to answer in the position of Mathilde. I don't know if she's been to Latin America or not. I do know that Renewi is just in Europe as of now, and they want to expand in the near future. Luis Catalan, would it be better to create more reusable materials, products, or having a more effective recycling system? I think that the answer goes both ways. I think we need both the better recycling system and better reusable products. But Mathilde says that if there is no collection, there is no recycling. And at the end of the day, the linear economy is not sustainable. We are polluting at levels that are changing our ecosystems and our way of life. Like right now, we're facing a respiratory pandemic. And since habits and education is different from all over the world, I think also manufacturers need to respect and have stricter, rigid regulations to comply. No. Another question, Mari Carmen, how many times your pellets can be recycled? What happens when it can't recycle anymore? I'm not sure of that. That's a very technical question and specific of Coolrec itself. She did mention that it's reusable for refrigerators and other types of appliances. Jorge Davila, now that the world is breathing, are there any new specific challenges in mind of Renewi and recycling industry for any future negative or positive human response? Well, I think that's a great question that I can turn to all of you and create conversation. Right now, coronavirus is speeding the inevitable, the digitalization and greening economy. So I want to know, since most of you are Latin American and coming from Mexico, Ecuador, some people from Spain, and developing countries, which depend on industry, have multiple opportunities to transform waste into energy or waste into opportunities. Do any of you work on a specific project or are thinking of doing something in this field? I think there's an option to raise your hand and people can comment. Don't be shy. This is an open platform for everybody to share their opinions and expressions. Yes, Mariana Medina.
Hi, I'm Mariana from Colombia, but I'm currently living in Madrid, and I wanted to agree with you on the point that this is only speeding up processes that were already ongoing. For example, becoming digital and going green it was like something that was supposed to happen, and this only make changes go quicker. For example, our company is currently working everything online and we're doing very good, and probably we will never go back to fully non-virtual experiences. And for example, with the oil drop that happened today, people might also invest in renewable energies. So it's an awful tragedy, but it has also positive effects, like, for example, these I just mentioned.
Thank you, Mariana, for your comment. Very valuable indeed. As a door closes, new opportunities arise, and this oil drop, well, we see that there's a new entry into renewables. A project that was once thought of as very costly or the return of investment seen as a more long term. Now it's as profitable and with the same time frame as a regular project. No, so coming from also an industrial city like Monterrey, where well in Latin America in general, everybody wants the return on investment tomorrow, and what they want to see the changes fast. This is a great opportunity for the green economy.
I think that this webinar was really interesting because we as Latin Americans we don't see this in our countries. I was impressed by the part when she said that the European Union was involved and they have this inverse triangle and everything, and I was like, oh my God, that is so weird for me with that with our government and everything. And at the end, we are starting this sustainable development to change things. Um, and I don't know, it was really interesting. I don't think we have that much information about recycling in the career. So I really learned things about the chemical and the physical process that I don't think that I would have learned if it wasn't for this webinar. So thank you so much for it.
Thank you, Valeria, for your comment. I'm glad that you were able to get some knowledge from this webinar. Me, myself, in fact, I am not technical whatsoever, so Mathilde is all the brains here. We have multiple episodes from our diverse stakeholders. Today was recycling. In our next episode, we're going to talk about Finland's largest and most renowned research institution, and they have a vision for 2030. They talk about their different points of view. So yeah, here at Sustainable Innovations, we work on 18 research and development projects financed by the European Commission. And the European Commission, what they do is that they audit that everything is happening properly, and that they finance everything too. So the intention for these types of projects are collaboration between European entities, and also that the social sustainable development goals are met, and technologies and methodologies are created. I know this is hard to think of coming from Latin America, but right now the youth is very interested, and the youth is very um, focused on this theme of sustainability and environment. And since everybody right now is in their studies, I think that you can definitely make an interest. If the government puts obstacles, it's only another reason to create these types of projects. You know, anybody else in the audience want to say a comment, want to add their points of view, add their vision? Okay, perfect. So I think that it does it. Like I said, in our next episode, we will be speaking to Heli Kangas from VTT. Again, VTT is the largest and most prominent research institution from Finland, and she specializes in bioeconomy and biomass. She will be talking about how forestry, specifically wood, can be utilized for many possible opportunities. If you enjoyed this webinar, feel free to join us next Wednesday at the same time. If you already registered and are listening to this webinar, you will be automatically registered to the next one. So again, thank you everybody, and please stay at home, stay safe, and looking forward to seeing you again in the next episode.